Hey guys, welcome back to Reel. I've got 4 new stories today. Enjoy. Hope you like these stories. I've got them one after another, a bit more categorised view. I'll put timestamps down below if you would like a particular one to listen to again. And please like and subscribe to support the content in the channel. I'll leave this with you. Enjoy.
First story today is Ghost of Oxford Milford Road. And this was written and edited by Brad Culp. When Brad Culp was a student at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, there was a rumour that the town was one of the most haunted places in America. When Culp started an on-campus magazine, he couldn't wait to write about several of the area's most famous phantoms. Not long after his story published, though, he kept finding himself thinking about one ghost in particular, the ghost of Oxford Milford Road. As the story goes, many decades ago, probably sometime in the 1940s, there was a young man courting a young woman in a rural part of town. Because the woman's parents didn't approve of the match, each night he visited under the cover of darkness. After her parents went to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her farmhouse and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Then her young suitor would ride his motorcycle down the road. One night he took a turn right before her house, a little too sharp, says Culp. The motorcycle went one way, he went the other. His injuries were so severe that he did not survive. Rumour has it, however, that his love-struck ghost still haunts the stretch of Milford Road. Curious, Culp and his girlfriend, now his wife, and a friend decided to head out there one night to see if they could verify this tale. His girlfriend was worried. She'd be completely freaked out. She believed more in that stuff than I do, Culp says. But he was mostly concerned that his suspicions that none was actually true would be confirmed. On this particular night, as Culp passed the abandoned farm, an idea came into his head and he pitched it to his girlfriend. How could she not say yes? Though reluctant, she relented and Culp turned a short way into the farmhouse driveway. Was it people or was it aliens? This story is by Doug Averill, a retired owner-manager of the Flathead Lake Lodge. Doug Averill grew up as one of 8 boys on his parents' sprawling dude ranch, the Flathead Lake Lodge in rural Montana. As a teen, the Averill boys ran wild. We rode around as a little gang of cowboys, he remembers. They'd saddle up and head off and check cattle on 3 giant tracts of land the family managed, which formed a triangle around some of the state's most remote rangelands. One summer in the 1960s, the brothers came across a ghastly sight. There was, on the ground, were 3 dead cows neatly arranged in a circle. No obvious wounds were visible, but their reproduction organs had been removed. But there was never any blood. It was almost surgical removal of all members. During this decade, America was obsessed with aliens, and the write-ups in the local newspaper posted that perhaps this could be the work of extraterrestrials. People mused that aliens had taken the reproductive organs for testing, But one day Averill and his friends came across a lance in their path. Attached to it was a cryptic note with a threatening message. That's when we thought it had got to be people doing this, he says. Then things got really strange. Over the next few days, a series of odd events unfolded. First, the brothers stopped in a local bar to grab a hamburger, leaving their horses in the back of a stock truck. The horses were packed in tightly, and Averill were only gone for a few minutes. When they came back, the horses packed into the middle of the truck were mysteriously out, with no sign of struggle. We had no idea how they possibly could have gotten that horse unloaded without unloading the others first, he says. The next day, a new wrangler on the ranch fell off his horse and was badly injured. They'd all been riding together, but not a single other member of the crew saw the accident. It was the weirdest thing, Averill says. The man's injuries were so severe that he was left permanently disabled. Finally, the last terrible thing happened. An old camp cook drove out to meet the brothers and ride out for a day. When he arrived, the tailgate on his stock truck had somehow gone missing, even though he had been there when it was loaded. His horse, Betsy, had fallen out of the truck and been dragged behind the vehicle for who knows how long. They had to put her down on the spot to be on. Story 3. The Ghost of the Parva Ski Resort. The story is by Drew Tedecki, a professional skier. Throughout Latin America, you will hear variations of the story of La Llorona, or the Wailing Woman. Sometimes she's lost her husband, sometimes she's lost her child, sometimes it's both. But in La Parva, a ski spot in the Chilean Andes, the Wailing Woman is named Lola, and everyone in the area swears they know her before she died. The local restaurant owner said he dated her. Pro skier Drew Tedecki says, adding that the ski patroller he heard the story from pointed at the exact hut where the tale takes place. The story starts on a nice day. In the peak ski season, Lola and her young son plan to spend the day on the slopes, as can happen in the Andes. A thick fog rose up from the valley, which often precedes the veil of a real storm. The clouds enveloped the two as they were making their way down from the top of the mountain, and they lost contact with one another, Tedecki says. Desperate to find her son, Lola began screaming his name as she ran through the thick fog, unable to see clearly, though she stumbled down a steep slope and began sliding towards the rocky Kalua. By chance, a local lift operator who was returning to his cabin came across her body. He was afraid she was dead, but on close inspection he found she was still alive, just barely. Tedecki says her body was covered in lacerations from sharp rocks, and the only word she said in the faintest whisper was her son's name. The lift operator worked carefully, pulled her body up to his cabin, which was just up the hill. He bandaged her cuts as best as he could, and then ran to fetch the doctor. Together the doctor and the lift operator made their way back to his hut, the fog hanging thickly in the air. When they arrived, though, the bed was empty, just the bloody sheets remained. Neither the woman nor her son were ever found, Tedecki says. but locals report hearing a wail for a child whenever they're near that lift operator's cabin. And here's the thing, Tebek does not believe in ghosts sometimes, however, changes when he arrives at Chile each winter. Maybe it's a fact that from La Pava you can see up to Carol el Palomo, an Inca child sacrifice site. Maybe it's because Tebek has simply read so many magical realism books by authors like June Rolfe and Gabriel Garcia Masquerade. But sitting alone in his cabin in the Andes, the winds whipping, the candles flickering, he swears that every now and then he can't just tell if what he's hearing is a woman in the wind. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the content so far. Just want to stop here just to say, if you are, please take time to like, comment and subscribe. It's really helping the channel just if you can subscribe to us, get the numbers up, obviously like the videos and comment on any future videos you'd like to see. Or if you know any stories, please forward them to me, get in touch via the comments and I'll happily send you an email address you can do that on, or find me on Instagram, and hope to speak to you more soon. The Wolf Girl of Devil's River. In 1835, a group of American colonists, led by Dr. Charles Beale, were camped at Lake Esponteza, a renowned haunted location near where what is now Carrizo Springs in southwest Texas, half a mile away from the Beale Group. John Dent and his pregnant wife Molly Dent, both went from Georgia, had built a bush cabin. Dent had come to trap beavers in the Devil's River area, north of the present-day Del Rio, but was also on the run from the law for the murder of a fellow trapper in Georgia. The Dents were to prove fortunate in their choice of site. Distant from the lake, a band of Comanches raided the main Beale camp and massacred most of the inhabitants, afterwards throwing the bodies of the victims and their carts into the lake, a haunted location. Even at this time, Esponteza Lake had acquired a reputation for ghostly goings-on. This incident added to the story of ill luck and sorrow centered on what, to this day, Mexicans consider a haunted location. The name Espantoso, try my best here, meaning frightful. As Molly was approached the end of her pregnancy, the couple were reluctant to travel, despite the danger of hostile Indians. One night in 1835, there was a severe thunderstorm and Molly went into labour. She appeared to be having problems with the birth, so Dent decided to ride westwards for help. He arrived at Mexico Goat Ranch on the Pecos Canyon and told them desperately about his wife's condition, begging for someone to ride back with him. But as the Mexicans prepared their horses to leave, there was a furious crash of thunder, and the bolt of lightning struck Dent from his horse, killing him instantly. After a considerable delay, the goat herders mounted up and followed Dent's directions. However, darkness fell before they had got over the divide to Devil's River. thus delaying the search. Finally, at sunrise the next morning, they located dense, isolated cabin. But what they found inside of the cabin, in an open bush arbour, was Molly Dent lying dead, alone. She had apparently died in childbirth, but there was no trace of a baby anywhere. The child was never found, but fang marks on the woman's body and numerous wolf tracks over the area made the goat herders naturally assume that the infant had either been devoured or carried off by lobo wolves. First sighting of the wolf girl. But this was just the beginning of the story. 10 years later, in 1845, a boy living in St. Philip Springs, Del Rio, reportedly saw a creature with long hair covering its features and looked like a naked girl attacking a herd of goats in the company of a pack of lobo wolves. The story was ridiculed by many, but still managed to spread back among the settlements. Around a year after this incident, a Mexican woman from San Felipe claimed she had seen 2 large wolves and an unclothed young girl devouring freshly killed goat. She approached close to the group, she said, before they saw her and ran off. The woman noticed that the girl ran initially on all 4 legs, but then rose and ran on 2 feet, keeping close to the wolves. The woman was in no doubt about what she had seen. And the scattering of people in the Devil's River country began to keep a sharp watch out for this girl. There are similar reports by others in the region during the following year, and an Apache story told of a child's footprints, sometimes accompanied by handprints, having been found among wolf tracks. In sandy places along the river, a hunt was organised to capture the lobo or wolf girl of Devil's River, as she had now become known, compromising many Mexican vacuas. On the 3rd day of the hunt, a naked girl was sighted near Espinal Lake, running with a pack of wolves. Such a sight would have shocked even the most experienced Omaha outdoors hunting enthusiast. The cowboys managed to separate the girl from her wolf companions and cornered her in the canyon. She fought like a wild cat, clawing and biting frantically to keep her freedom. They finally managed to lasso her and keep her still. But while they were trying to tie her up, she began to make frightening, unearthly sounds, somewhere between a scream of a woman and howl of a wolf. As she howled, the monster, he-wolf, from whom she became separated, appeared and rushed at her captors. Fortunately, one of the cowboys reacted quickly and shot it dead with a pistol, at which the wolf girl fell into a faint. Securely bound, the men were now narrow and able to examine the girl, and noted that despite the body covered in hair and her wild mannerisms, her appearance was human. Her hands and arms were well muscled but not out of proportion, and she lacked the ability to speak, only making deep growling noises. She moved smoothly on all 4s, but was rather awkward when made to stand up straight. The girl was put on a horse and taken to the nearest ranch, an isolated 2-room shack amid the desert wilderness. She was put in one of the rooms and unbound, the cowboys offered her a covering for her body and food and water, but she refused, cowering in the darkest corner. They then left her alone the night and locked the door, and posted a guard outside. The only other door opening in the room was a small, boarded up window. Ghostly cries. But as night fell, the cowboys heard terrifying howls coming from the girl's room. The strange cries carried through the still night air, unsettled her captors, and soon finding answers from among wolf packs in the wilderness beyond the shack. Soon there were long, deep howls coming from all sides as the pack drew closer to the house, and occasionally strange howling screams from the girl answering them from inside the dark room. Suddenly the large pack of wolves charged into the corrals, attacking the goats, cows, horses, and bringing the cowboys outside shooting and yelling to drive them away. In all the confusion, the wolf girl managed to tear the planks from the window and escape into the night. The howls soon abated, and the wolves crept back into the wilderness. The next day, not a trace of the girl could be found. Learning to track the wilderness of Texas or the wild Oma outdoors is an age-old art required by many years' dedication and practice. Though there were a few unveiled reports, the following years a young-haired covered girl being seen with a wolf pack in the area, no one ever came close to contact with her. Meanwhile, gold had been discovered in California, and westward travel was on the increase significantly. In 1852, a surveying party of frontiersmen searched for a new route to El Paso. Riding down the Rio Grande at a bend far from the mouth of Devil's River, they were at the water's edge when they saw, at close range, sitting on the sandbar, a young girl suckling two wolf cubs. Suddenly, she saw them, quickly grabbed her pups and dashed off into the breaks. At such a rate it was impossible for the horsemen to follow. The girl would have been 17 years old that year. After she disappeared into the wilderness forever, it was impossible to know what became of Millie Dent's daughter, assuming that's who the wolf girl was. There were frequent reports of human-faced wolves in the area up until the 1930s, and author L.D. Reptilian wrote in 1937, during the past 40 years, I have, in the Western countries, met more than one wolf face, strongly marked with human characteristics. The Ghost of Devil's River. The story of the girl of Devil's River reads more like a folk tale than a real federal trial case. A large amount of evidence for what had happened is poor anecdotal. She does, however, seem to live on a more subtle form. A ghost has apparently been seen in Old St. Philip Springs area beside the banks of Devil's River in 1974, the same year as the Delphos Wolf Girl in Kansas. A hunter in this area claimed to have seen her again, in the form of a white apparition which vanished before his eyes. Back in autumn of 1835, when John and Molly Dent and newly arrived in Texas, Molly wrote her mother an odd letter which said merely, "Dear Mother, the Devil's River in Texas, that is all it is home, and it is made for those who are grown. Yours with love, Mother."
Hey folks, hopefully you enjoyed the stories. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to add a comment below with any stories you might want me to narrate, and I'll go for that. Just looking for content at the moment, guys, so anything you think will be interesting, please point me in that direction and I'll happily read that for you. Also, before you go, guys, comment below on the type of length of videos you'll be looking for in future. If you prefer the longer ones, or if you prefer something 20 minutes, sub 20 minutes, let me know and I can work on that.